This is the plaintiff, Colette Richards. She says she gave the defendant's rooming agency a fee to find her a room to rent, and they sent her from one flea bag to another. The rooms they showed her were in terrible condition. She asked for her fee back, and they told her no. They also told her if she didn't like that answer, she could take them to court, so that's just what she's doing. She's suing for the return of her $200 and expects the judge to see her side of things. This is the defendant, Charlene Martinez. He says it's been a year since he's had the displeasure of working with a plaintiff who has filed this bogus lawsuit to harass him. He doesn't owe the woman a penny. His fee's non-refundable, and he can't wait to see the look on the plaintiff's face when that judge bangs the gavel in his favor and she walks out of here the way she walked in, with nothing. He is accused of running out of rooms.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff gave the defendant money to find a room to rent and says that the places were beyond unlivable, but the defendant says the deal is the fee is non-refundable. It's the case of Heartbreak Hotel.
Colette Richards?
Yes.
You are suing Delta Rooms Corporation, represented here by Charlene Martinez. You're the owner. Hello.
Yes.
What's with the sunglasses?
Well, I'm photophobic.
You're photophobic?
Yes.
Because I kind of like to see the eyes of the people I'm talking to, because they're the window to the soul. Does it really bother you?
Yes.
It's medical?
Yes.
You've had a doctor tell you this?
Yes.
Okay. You're suing him for $200, a rental fee that you paid him that you say he didn't earn, I guess. Okay, so tell me what happened.
Okay, so I found Delta Rooms in a newspaper ad. I called them on October 22nd that, I'm in the market for a room for a couple. So as a result, I walked into his office and spoke to an Elizabeth, paid the $200, and immediately I was sent out to...
Did you sign a contract?
Yes.
May I see the contract you signed?
Unfortunately, I do not have a copy. I only have a copy of the debit.
Do you have a copy of the contract?
Yes, I do.
May I see it? So go on. What happens? Exactly what were you paying for? You pay them $200 and they do what? Do they take you to see rooms?
Actually, they would give me the address and then I would walk or
okay,
drive.
But they wouldn't physically take you?
No. So
okay, so how many addresses did they give you?
What they did was to send me one at a time. So before I would go out, they would give me an address, and if I came back, it didn't work out, then they would actually send me to another one.
Why didn't you just say, give me 6 addresses so I don't have to keep coming back? Or
well, I didn't know what their policies were. I was just going by what.
So you got one address, went to it, and what happened?
The lady showed me the room was quite small. I did not voice that to her.
Okay, so you didn't like the first one, and then what happens?
I went back to the office, and the lady told me that she's going to look around and call me by telephone. So I received another call at 4 p.m. that afternoon and was sent to another address.
Okay.
But it was horrible. The paint was chipped. It was just very uncomfortable.
And then what'd you do?
Then I called the office again. But I noticed that after I kept calling back, my calls went unanswered. Saturday, Sunday. So I decided to go back Monday. And that's when I saw a gentleman in the office. Elizabeth was no longer there. And I told him that I wasn't able to get someone. The phone calls went unanswered. And I don't really like how this looks. I'd rather to have my money refunded. So he took up the phone and called his boss. And he later told me that, my fee would not be refunded. However, I can take the company to court.
Okay. What is your impression of the fee? What did you pay for?
To find me a place, because
so your understanding of the contract is that you paid them $200 to actually find you a place.
Yes,
they only get to keep.
Job.
Hold on. They only get to keep the money if they successfily find you a place.
That's
correct. And they didn't successfully find you a place, so they must return your money. That's your impression of the contract.
Yeah, because that was like a breach. They did not.
You felt it was a breach if the phone calls were unanswered over the weekend.
Not only that, I got the impression that the company was not willing to work with me either.
What's willing to work with you to do what?
To continue, finding.
Did they say we won't give you any more addresses?
He did not really communicate with me other than to say that my money would not be returned.
Because at that point you don't want other addresses, you want your money back though, right? Because you just didn't like it. You didn't like it they didn't return your phone calls.
The thing is...
What day of the month was this? You signed the contract when? 10/18, and you needed to have a new place by when?
As soon as possible. I
when
did
was
not
your-
give them a specific date.
At the time, you were. What was your living situation? Did you have an apartment?
I had an apartment.
Were you
but
being evicted?
No.
Did you have to leave that apartment for any specific reason?
The reason why, because the original apartment that I was living at, the landlord moved us to another apartment that was deplorable. So I wasn't
Okay. Did you have a
comfortable
lease
there
in
either.
that place, or you could leave whenever you wanted to?
It wasn't really a lease. It was a room where I would share.
That's not a reason to not have a lease, but in any event, that's fine. Okay, so you didn't have to stay there. You didn't want to stay there. You were free to find another place at any time.
Yes.
But you didn't have an urgency
No.
to leave. Okay, I got it. All right, let me hear your side, sir.
Well, Delta Room Rentals is a room rentals agency, and we specialize in placing international students and local residents into rooms, apartments, anything that's residential. She said that she needed to move in as soon as possible. So when she first came in, we was willing to give her multiple addresses. She was expecting, I guess, a larger place for $200 as well.
$200 a what?
Yeah, her budget was $200.
A what?
A week.
Okay.
A week, which is usually gets you an average size room, which it could be 150 square feet. She believed that was not big enough for $200. So what we suggested was that she was willing to be flexible with the area of where she wanted to stay at. She said that she only wanted to stay in Manhattan. She was flexible to go to the Bronx as well, but she didn't like the room.
Okay, so let's talk about that weekend. Do you have any business records, or did you talk to anybody in your company to find out?
I did speak to Jackie. There's no one in the office named Elizabeth.
Is it possible you're mistaken?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
I do
All right. So did you talk to Jackie? And Jackie says, yes, I talked to her, and I'm the one who. Okay.
Yes.
And then did Jackie explain whether or not there were unreturned phone calls during the weekend?
Well, we don't work on Sundays, and Saturday we only work from 11 to 4. So
Okay.
it depends on what time she called, during the weekend.
Okay. And how does your business work?
So if, this woman gets, looks at place after place after place and she doesn't like any of them, does she get her money back?
Yeah, she have a right to get her money back. She didn't sign nothing.
Well, but the thing is, the guy said, look, I'll find you a place. That doesn't mean you have to take the place. I'm going to find you a place. Who's talking? Okay.
I think if the person seeking the room made a reasonable effort in good faith, a reasonable person would have been happy with the room.
Consideration.
Yeah, there's consideration.
You're a law student, aren't you?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. You guys agree with him?
I think if he's charging for his services, then he shouldn't get his money back.
You realize when you're a law student, it's like having a scarlet letter on your head. I hear the clues. We're going inside the courtroom.
What you do is just provide the names of places that are renting. Like you collect the names of all the places renting and you hand them to her one by one?
Yes.
Why is it one by one?
One by one, because we don't want to give them a whole bunch of places and then the owners will be expecting for them. A lot of our clients, they end up taking the first place they see. So if we do set up appointments, we give it 5, 6 different places, and the owners will be, very upset.
Making appointments and the person doesn't show up.
Doesn't show up. We do explain to every of our clients prior to them paying the service fee that the service fee is not refundable. We also
Are you guys real estate brokers?
No. This is a room rentals apartment sharing information vendor. The service fee is valid for 90 days. We're not refusing and giving her other addresses or trying to find her a place.
Yeah, but you also told me to I have the option of taking them to court. He did not volunteer that he's going to give me another address to go to.
Well, right. But see, at that point, the reason he's saying that is because you're telling him, I want my money back. I want my money back. You're not saying, okay, give me other addresses.
But, I wasn't abrasive. I was
What ended
very
up happening
quiet.
in this? When did you find a place and how?
Okay, so after 2 months, my husband went to another agency in Manhattan. And
After 2 months, you mean in December?
like February 2013.
Oh, 4 months later. So you stayed 4 months in the place you were at.
Yes.
Okay.
So my husband went to another agency in the area, and that agency was able to find us a very lovely room.
In the same area?
Delta Rooms,
Where,
they
in
weren't
what area?
willing to work with me
In what
at all.
area?
In Manhattan, Washington Heights.
The reason why I'm asking is because I do own multiple agencies around, so it might be the same
Which
company.
agency?
I think it was NYC City Rooms.
That's
I'm not
my-
sure.
that's
Wait. Oh my God, this is great.
That's
Okay.
that's
hold
my
on.
agency.
Wait. What's the name of the agency?
I think it was New York City Rooms.
That's my agency as well.
New York City Rooms is
My
your
husband-
agency.
my
husband went there and found it.
Wait.
It's owned by me, but it's a different company.
And I had
so-
no idea that
Are you
NYC
separately
Rooms.
incorporated?
Yes.
I had
Why
no
do you have
idea.
this separate companies? Why don't you just have
Well,
one
it's
big?
just strategy of business. We are
Why
all-
though? Like I'm curious because I don't get it.
Well,
and I
we
wanna
are
get
our
it.
own competitors. It's the same reason. If you're not satisfied with one company, you're going to go to the next.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
He's a hustler. You're, not in a bad way, in a good way. In a good way. I meant it like you've.
He's working.
You're working it. Ms. Richards, I think you're out of gas. You don't know this because you don't keep copies of what you signed, but let me read to you what you signed. We understand the fee paid at Delta Room Rentals is paid for information given in regards to room availability and is non-refundable under any circumstance.
I saw that too.
Where did you see it?
On my copy.
I thought you said you didn't have your copy.
I had
just
the
didn't
copy,
want me
but
to see it?
I just could not find it. I was, looking for it all over.
So before suing, you realized that you were out of gas. All right.
Transaction.
Based on what I've heard, I rule in favor of the defendant in this case. That's the deal you struck. You paid $200 for information. I can't help but notice you stayed in the place you were at for 4 months. It kind of sounds like you changed your mind about renting at that point.
No, I did not change my mind.
Well, it kind of looks that way. But either way, this is what you signed and this is what you are stuck with. You're stuck with what you signed, which apparently you know exactly what you signed. Verdict for the defendant.
Well, here comes the plaintiff, and you sign it, and you live by it. That sounds pretty basic, doesn't it?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because that was a breach of contract. He failed to provide the rooms. Part of the contract also says that, they're willing to show me as many rooms as possible until I find the one that's most suitable. So the fact that he only showed me 2 rooms, that was a breach. Yes.
All right. You just head right down this way. Let's see what he has to say about that. She says that.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing good. As a company, we just try to do the best, and I guess that she was not satisfied with the program, but that's about it.
Yeah. How come you couldn't satisfy this customer?
Well, when we take care of thousands of people, there's always going to be a person that might not be satisfied or might not agree to, the way the system works. But we always try to do the best.
Harvey?
So here's the thing. The way these deals work is this, that there's kind of an implied clause in all of these contracts that the person who has to find the room has to do what they call due diligence, which means they have to find decent places that a reasonable person might rent. And if this particular woman doesn't want the places, as long as the defendant did due diligence, tough luck for the plaintiff. The defendant is not guaranteeing that the plaintiff is going to find a room. All the defendant is doing is saying, look, I will show you good places, and if you want them, great. If you don't, it's your problem.